who taught that the man who desires to become good in every respect must be ruined among so many who are not good. Niccolò Machiavelli. Chapter 1. The Paper Tiger. Paper tigers, they roar loudly, believing it makes them powerful. But a true prince knows the loudest growls often hide the weakest bite. We uncover their deception. They tell you a loud roar means strength. They say a commanding presence signals power. This is a lie, a dangerous illusion designed to disarm and drain you. Understood what Machiavelli understood, what most still refuse to see. The lion cannot protect himself from traps, and the fox cannot defend himself from wolves. One must therefore be a fox to recognize traps, and a lion to frighten wolves. The loud ones often have no teeth. Right now, you are likely surrounded by these pretenders. You recognize them. They are the ones who talk big, who make grand promises, whose every gesture screams alpha. They fill the room, soaking up attention, dominating every conversation. But watch their eyes closely. Listen to what they carefully avoid saying. They are the paper tiger, an impressive silhouette against the light, but hollow, easily torn apart by any real wind, crumbling under the slightest pressure. These people are not your allies. They are a profound liability, a black hole of competence, ready to swallow your efforts. They will draw you into their elaborate schemes, sell you on their grand vision, then vanish the moment real pressure hits. Their confidence is a shield, not for you, but for their own crippling fear. They desperately need you to believe their carefully constructed lie, because if you don't, they are instantly exposed. Their entire existence relies on external validation, on the continued performance of a role they can barely sustain. They are addicted to the applause, terrified of the silence. Think about the friend who always has an elaborate excuse for their failures, the colleague who volunteers for everything, then mysteriously disappears when the work begins, the leader who delegates all risk downwards, never holding themselves accountable. They avoid genuine conflict, deflect criticism, and thrive only in environments of talk, not action. Watch what happens when a real challenge arrives. When the stakes are genuinely high, they will always find a way to shift the burden, to blame the circumstances, to point the finger at someone else. They will sacrifice anyone, including you, to protect their fragile image. True strength is quiet. It is forged in the crucible of self-discipline, in the silent conquest of your own fears and limitations. If you announce your power, you immediately invite challenge. But if you quietly build your empire, brick by brick, there's nothing for anyone to challenge until it's far too late. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." What he understood is that true power is internal, a fortress of character built on integrity and consistent action, not a flimsy parade of posturing. He knew the only real battle is the one within, a battle these confident cowards perpetually lose. This external show, this hollow confidence, is not just a personal flaw. It is a weapon these individuals use against you, often unconsciously. It is a drain on your energy, a distraction from your true path, and a source of constant frustration. But there's another insidious trap these individuals set. One that slowly poisons your perception of reality itself. What is it? Chapter 2. Echo Chamber Roar. Empty words, a grand performance. They drain your will, distract you from true action. Beware, for this is the echo chamber roar. This is the echo chamber roar. You hear the grand pronouncements, the sweeping plans, the declarations of intent. These individuals speak of revolution, of massive undertakings, of shifting the very ground beneath their feet. You invest your belief, your time, even your emotional energy into their performance, into the vibrant image they paint of future success. But it is all smoke. A stage play with no audience beyond themselves, and anyone willing to applaud their empty words. This endless talk, this constant stream of what they will do, drains you slowly. It distracts you from genuine action, from the quiet work that actually builds something. You find yourself waiting, hoping for them to finally deliver on their bold statements. This false hope ties you to their inaction, making you complicit in their stagnation. They never commit, never risk, never truly move, because the moment they step into the arena, the illusion shatters. Think about the friend who always has the next big idea, the grand scheme to get rich, to get fit, to change the world. They talk about it constantly, meticulously detailing every step, every potential hurdle they will overcome. Other people nod, they praise the vision, they commend the confidence. But weeks turn into months, and the only thing that moves is their mouth. The project itself remains a whisper, a ghost of an idea, never manifesting in the harsh light of reality. Here's how they use it against you. They gather praise for talking about action, not for taking it. They build a reputation as a doer or a visionary without ever risking failure, without ever facing the brutal feedback of the real world. They crave the validation of their words because actual effort is too daunting, too uncertain. Their confidence is not a belief in their ability to act, but a shield deflecting the need for substance, a desperate plea for recognition. If you announce your plans, people will judge you by your words, not your deeds. They will offer opinions, sow doubts, or worse, they will steal your ideas before you even begin. But if you quietly do the work, if you build in silence, there is nothing for them to criticize, nothing for them to dissect, and no window for them to exploit. Your actions become your only voice, a language few truly understand, because it demands patience and effort. Plato, in his reflections on perception, understood that most people live chained, mistaking shadows on a wall for the true forms of reality. These individuals thrive in a similar cave, where their grand pronouncements are merely shadows, projected by their ego onto the minds of those who refuse to turn and see the source of the light. They feed on the applause for the illusion, terrified of the blinding truth outside. Lao Tzu, the ancient master, taught that a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, but these people believe it begins with 1,000 words. He understood that true power and progress are silent, unseen, like water carving rock, while the loudest torrents often crash and dissipate quickly without leaving a lasting mark. The real builders do not announce their foundations, they simply lay the brick. But the roar isn't the only sound you need to fear from these individuals. There's another, more subtle hum, a constant vibration that distorts your own self-perception and twists your potential. What is it? Chapter 3, The Scapegoat Shield. The Scapegoat Shield, a formidable, invisible defense. Learn how to recognize those who wield it and avoid becoming their convenient target. Your very existence threatens them. The hum you sense is the constant vibration of the scapegoat shield. It is a defense mechanism, a wall built from the rubble of others' reputations. They do not face their own failures. Instead, they project them, like a faulty projector, beaming its internal dust onto your screen. This is their subconscious act of self-preservation. When you associate with these individuals, you become a convenient receptacle for their shortcomings. Your successes threaten them. Your struggles offer a perfect target. They twist events, reframe intentions, inventing motivations to ensure they are never at fault. It corrodes your self-worth, making you question your own judgment. Think about the project that failed, the opportunity lost, or the social blunder. You were there. You saw what happened. You know who was truly responsible. Yet, somehow, the narrative shifts. Suddenly, your advice was misguided, your contribution insufficient, your timing off. This confident friend, seemingly sharp and self-assured, is a master manipulator of blame. They do not apologize. They do not accept fault. Their entire self-image relies on external control. Every misstep is someone else's doing. This isn't confidence. It's a deep-seated fear of accountability. Sigmund Freud, the father of psychoanalysis, understood this mechanism intimately. He described projection as a common defense, attributing one's own unacceptable thoughts or feelings onto others. What he understood is that this isn't malice, but a desperate psychological maneuver to protect the ego from overwhelming anxiety and personal inadequacy. Here's how you disarm the scapegoat shield. Recognize the pattern, not the specific accusation. It's not about whether you actually made a mistake. It's about their consistent reflex to deflect all responsibility. Observe their behavior when things go wrong, not just when they go right. Stop defending yourself. Every explanation you offer, every counter-argument feeds their illusion that blame is a movable object. They want you to engage, to argue, to absorb the projection. Your engagement legitimizes their accusation and gives them the energy they need. Instead, become a silent observer. Let their words hang, unanswered. Allow them to publicly construct their elaborate fictions. The moment you refuse your assigned role, their script falters. They expect a reaction, a confrontation. Give them nothing. If you announce your innocence, people will doubt you more. They will see smoke and assume fire. But if you quietly detach, letting accusations land without effect, there's nothing for them to fight against. You don't need to prove anything to those who actively seek a scapegoat. Aristotle, the ancient Greek philosopher, taught that virtue lies in taking responsibility for one's actions and developing good character. He argued that true excellence comes from self-awareness and self-correction, not from externalizing fault. For him, blame shifting was an obstacle to a fulfilling life. The confident friend living behind this shield never truly learns. They never grow. They remain trapped in a perpetual loop of denial, unable to process failures, unable to adapt. Their competence is a mirage. Their confidence is a mirage. Their confidence a performance. They build no real character, only brittle defense. But this shield, while potent, is not their only weapon. There's another subtle tactic they employ, a way they drain your very desire to achieve, slowly, imperceptibly. What is this insidious drain that steals your ambition? Chapter 4. Mirrored authority. Mirrored authority, a dangerous illusion, born of your own strength. Understand this parasitic drain and learn how to deny them your light. The insidious drain you face is mirrored authority. Their confidence is no internal fire. It's a reflection, borrowed light, entirely dependent on you and others. They project self-assurance, a fragile facade needing constant reinforcement, a mirror held by their audience. Without that mirror, their certainty crumbles. This constant need for validation makes them psychological parasites. They need your approval to maintain their illusion of strength. They subtly maneuver situations to extract praise. Give it, and you deplete your own energy, your resolve. You become a battery for their performance. Think about the friend always telling hero stories. When others get the spotlight or vulnerability is required, their eyes dart, posture stiffens, charm falters. They grow agitated, seeking to reclaim the center, redirecting attention to their self-aggrandizing tales. This isn't confidence. It's a frantic scramble for external validation. Here's how they operate. They cultivate external projection, not inner strength. Masters of impression management, curating how others perceive them. Carl Jung spoke of the persona, the mask we wear. For them, the persona is their reality, requiring constant reflection. He understood that, without facing your shadow, the self remains incomplete, dependent on external mirrors. Providing the validation they crave makes you complicit. You enable their superficiality, allowing them to avoid self-reflection. They will drain your positive energy, turning authentic praise into fuel for their hollow ego. There is no give and take, only constant demand. The mirror never truly fills their void. You become an emotional battery. Your own light dims as you pour energy into their fragile self. Consider your conversations, a constant monologue designed to draw admiration, not genuine connection. They bait you with stories of successes or struggles, purely to hear you reinforce their image. You become a prop in their theater, a participant in their illusion. This constant performance leaves no room for your own growth. You are complicit in their self-deception. Here's how you break the cycle. Stop being the mirror. Don't argue, don't confront, simply withdraw your reflection. When they fish for compliments, offer a neutral observation. When they demand praise, give a factual statement. Watch what happens when the applause stops. If you challenge them directly, they will find another audience, another mirror. But if you quietly remove your approval, if you become unresponsive to their ploys, they are left with nothing but their own hollow echo. No one confirms their grandiosity. Socrates, the ancient Athenian thinker, famously urged people to know thyself. He understood that true strength comes from an honest inventory of your character, not from the crowd's opinions. This means confronting weaknesses, not just celebrating strengths. Your confident friend avoids this at all costs. They run from internal examination, preferring the comforting illusion of external praise. But there's another hidden weakness they carry, one that makes them crumble the moment their audience disappears. What is it? Chapter 5, The Indirect Knife. The indirect knife, a weapon of the weak, yet wielded by many. Learn how their fear of confrontation transforms into a slow, agonizing drain on your power. This hidden weakness is their terror of direct confrontation, a fear so profound it makes them masters of the indirect knife. They cannot face an opposing force head-on. Instead, they cut from shadows, draining you slowly, ensuring no one traces the wound back to their hand. This is not strategy. It is retreat, packaged as cleverness. Their aversion to direct challenge means every conflict becomes a complex web of passive aggression and subtle sabotage. You navigate a minefield of unspoken resentments, guessing the true source of friction. Your energy drains, deciphering veiled attacks. They make you doubt your perception because nothing they do is ever overt. Watch what happens when you threaten their perceived status. They won't engage. They will smile, agree, then undermine you through other channels. Perhaps they forget to invite you, or accidentally misrepresent your words to a superior, always with plausible deniability. There's no fire, just a cold burn that leaves you isolated. Here's how you deal with this. Understand their indirectness is a tell. It signals weakness. Do not engage with passive-aggressive games. When they deliver an indirect cut, address the action, not intent, in a neutral, factual tone, ideally with a witness. Force the issue into the open, without emotion. If you announce frustration, people see you as emotional, reactive, and paranoid. They dismiss your concerns. But if you quietly document their patterns, pointing out objective facts without accusation, there's nothing to deflect. You build a case, not a complaint. This tactic echoes Sun Tzu, who advised, "To subdue the enemy without fighting is the acme of skill." What he understood is that true mastery isn't brute force, but understanding opponent's psychology. Your confident friend attempts this, but their version is born of fear, not strategic brilliance. Their indirect cuts also reveal a deep internal struggle, a profound lack of courage beneath their polished exterior. They appear calm and collected, but this is a performance designed to hide their terror of discomfort. They cannot handle immediate feedback, rejection, or the vulnerability of honest dialogue. This constant avoidance eats at their integrity, creating internal dissonance that prevents genuine growth. They become masters of deflection and blame, never owning mistakes because doing so means confronting their flaws. It's a self-imposed prison of pretense, risking their fragile self-image. Think about the corrosive effect this has on their relationships. People sense the insincerity, hidden agendas, even if they can't pinpoint them. Trust erodes. Deep connections become impossible. They are left with superficial alliances. built on convenience, not genuine respect. What they don't realize is the immense strength found in confronting reality. Mahatma Gandhi said, "Strength does not come from physical capacity. It comes from an indomitable will." He understood that true power is not about avoiding conflict, but about facing it with unshakable inner resolve. The confident friend mistakes evasion for strength. Their indirect actions are not clever plays. They are desperate maneuvers of someone perpetually running from themselves. They choose the path of least resistance, not because it's smarter, but because it's the only path their fear allows. That fear is a weapon you can use once you understand how it makes them predictable. But there's another hidden trap their confidence lays for you, one that makes you doubt your own successes and question your worth. What is it? Chapter 6, Fair Weather Ally. The smiling assassin. Beware the ally whose loyalty withers in the shadow of adversity. They are a mirage, offering comfort that dissolves when truly needed. The trap is the fair weather ally, the one whose so-called confidence is a performance, a costume worn only when the sun shines on your path. They project an image of unwavering support, always ready with a back pat or an encouraging word, but their loyalty is as shallow as their conviction. This isn't about your self-doubt, it's about their fundamental lack of depth. This type of friend destroys you by offering a false sense of security, convincing you that you have a powerful backing. They are cheerleaders in your victories, loud and visible, soaking up the reflected glory. But the moment the tide turns, the moment real pressure hits, they vanish. Think about a time you faced genuine adversity, a true struggle that demanded sacrifice and grit. These confident allies are nowhere to be found. Their phone calls go unanswered. Their availability suddenly dries up. They are present for the feast, but never for the famine. What Winston Churchill understood is that courage is not the absence of fear, but rather the judgment that something else is more important than fear. The fair weather ally fails this test every single time. Their own comfort and self-preservation always outweigh any supposed bond with you. To identify and disarm them, you do not announce your struggles. You do not ask for help directly or broadcast your vulnerabilities. Instead, you introduce small, subtle tests, challenges that hint at potential difficulties without fully exposing your hand. Watch what happens when you suggest a venture with unknown risks, or when you mention a problem requiring effort and no immediate reward. Observe their body language, their sudden change in topic, the swiftness with which they generate excuses. Their withdrawal is their confession. If you broadcast your needs, if you declare yourself in trouble, these people will simply retreat, leaving you exposed and bewildered. They will offer platitudes or disappear entirely, surprised by your expectation of genuine support. You become a liability they want to shed. But if you quietly observe their reactions to minor inconveniences or potential shared burdens, you will gather all the data you need. There's nothing for them to refute or explain. Their actions speak clearly about their conditional loyalty. Seneca wrote that adversity is what truly reveals a friend. He knew that the trials of life expose the true nature of those around you, stripping away pretense and showcasing genuine character. A fair weather ally cannot stand this kind of scrutiny. What they fear most is commitment, responsibility, anything that demands real skin in the game. Their confidence is merely a shield protecting them from the messy realities of life, a performance designed to avoid discomfort and accountability. They never actually commit. Their indirect actions, their carefully worded evasions, are not signs of strategic thinking. They are manifestations of deep-seated cowardice, a desperate attempt to maintain their comfortable illusion. They will always choose the path of least resistance, even if it means abandoning you. This type of friend is a weight, not a wing. They will always pull you down when gravity gets heavy. But there's another hidden drain on your strength, a subtle manipulation that makes you question your core beliefs. What is it? Chapter 7. The Unmasking Dread. Unmasking dread, the very heart of their tyranny. Understand this profound terror, and you unlock their every manipulative gambit, their relentless need to control your world. The manipulation you face is born from their deepest wound, the unmasking dread. This is not just fear of failure, it's the profound terror their entire constructed image will crumble. They live in constant anxiety that their true cowardice, their spineless core, will be laid bare. This fear drives their aggression, their need to control every perception. This dread destroys you, because anyone threatening their illusion becomes an enemy to be neutralized. They will subtly undermine your credibility, plant doubts about your motives, or discredit you. Their strategies preventing any crack in their armor. You, with your genuine achievements, threaten that directly. They cannot allow your light to expose their shadow. Watch what happens when you praise someone else for a quality they pretend to possess. You will see a flicker, a moment of panic, then they launch into a dismissive critique, or subtly try to steal the spotlight. They will find fault, downplay achievements, or redirect attention, anything to avoid the comparison, highlighting their hollowness. When you push gently, asking about a commitment they skirted, their response is brutal. They do not debate, they attack. They do not explain, they accuse. This primal defense mechanism makes you retreat, silencing any inquiry that might peel back their facade. They want you to feel foolish for even asking. Here's how you disarm their unmasking dread without a single word. Observe their behavior, their sudden deflections, aggressive pivots when faced with truth. Note their patterns of evasion. Understand their venom targets not you, but the mirror you inadvertently hold up. Your calm, unwavering presence reflects reality, which they fear most. If you announce their cowardice, they will rally others against you, painting you as jealous or vindictive. But if you quietly observe and act on the knowledge they are motivated by terror, you hold all the cards. There is nothing for them to fight if you simply acknowledge their fear internally and adjust. You no longer engage their performance. You see the puppeteer. Friedrich Nietzsche, the philosopher who dared to look into the abyss, understood this struggle with masks. He wrote, "One is not a moralist, because one has a moral in oneself, but because one possesses a mask for oneself." He understood many adopt a veneer of strength, not from conviction, but as a strategic disguise to navigate a world they secretly fear. Their confidence is a costume. They cling to this costume with desperate intensity. Without it, they perceive themselves as nothing. This isn't just about external perception, it's about internal self-worth, entirely dependent on the lie. The moment the mask cracks, they fear total annihilation, a psychological death more terrifying than physical danger. Their confidence is a constant act of self-preservation. Socrates, the ancient Greek master of self-examination, famously declared that the unexamined life is not worth living. He understood true wisdom begins with knowing yourself, confronting flaws. This confident friend, however, lives an entirely unexamined life, terrified of introspection, because it would force them to confront the emptiness behind their facade. Their inability to examine motivations, their fear of self-reflection, is precisely why they project insecurities onto others. They cannot bear their own lack of courage, so they accuse others of weakness. They cannot admit their own fear, so they manufacture scenarios where others appear afraid. This is their shadow self, unchecked. The tragedy for them is by avoiding their own truth, they condemn themselves to a perpetual performance, exhausting themselves, maintaining an illusion. For you, if you remain entangled, their dread will drain your energy, distort your perceptions, and pull you into their warped reality. Chapter 8. The Shared Illusion. The shared illusion, a dangerous dance. Observe how their fear, unaddressed, twists reality. It warps your own perception unless you know what to seek and what to unmask. The dread from their unaddressed fear warps their world, and without careful observation, it warps yours too. This is the shared illusion, the collective agreement that a loud voice signals strength, that a polished exterior equals substance, that a refusal to back down is courage, even when it's merely stubborn terror. You are conditioned to perceive these performances as genuine. You are taught to respect the veneer, to assume that anyone who commands attention must possess some inherent worth. This collective blindness becomes a trap. It means you waste your attention, your trust, and your resources on an empty shell. You might even emulate their outward behaviors, believing you are adopting confidence, when in reality you are internalizing a strategy of avoidance and projection. You become part of the audience, feeding their illusion with your deference and your unwitting validation. Think about the dynamics in any group, any workplace, any social circle. There is often one who dominates conversations, who loudly dismisses dissent, who always has an immediate, unyielding answer. They project an aura of certainty, and because few challenge it, because it's easier to go along, everyone silently agrees to the performance. The consensus isn't based on truth. It's based on convenience and a shared reluctance to puncture the charade. Here's how you begin to dismantle this illusion within yourself. You must shift your frame of reference. As Albert Einstein said, we cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them. What he understood is that a new perspective is needed. You cannot judge true strength by the same metrics that create the illusion of strength. You have to step outside the collective agreement. Instead of listening to their words, watch their actions over time. Observe not just what they do, but what they avoid doing. Look for consistency between their bold claims and their quiet behaviors. A truly confident person moves with purpose, not just noise. They execute, they build, and they take responsibility for outcomes, good or bad, without shifting blame or creating drama. The shallow confidence of the coward, by contrast, relies entirely on external reactions. They need the applause, the fear, the deference to sustain their act. Without it, their edifice crumbles. They are masters of impression management, but beneath the surface, the foundations are crumbling. They are like a house with a beautifully painted front door, but no supporting walls inside. While the crowd applauds the impressive facade, you must train your eye to see the structural weaknesses. You must look for the subtle flinches, the desperate need for control, the immediate defensiveness when questioned. Leonardo da Vinci understood the power of meticulous observation, urging us to learn how to see. What he grasped is that true understanding comes from seeing beyond the obvious, examining every detail until the hidden truth reveals itself. The shared illusion thrives because the cowardly confident surround themselves with those who reinforce it. They select for echoes, not for challenges. They cultivate an environment where their performance is the accepted reality, where any deviation is quickly suppressed or ridiculed. They craft their echo chamber. Your strategy is to refuse to enter that chamber. You isolate their behavior from their projection. You recognize that their grandiosity is not a reflection of their power, but a desperate attempt to avoid their own weakness. You detach your perception from the crowds, and in doing so, you gain a clear, cold advantage. Chapter 9. Quiet Authority. Observe the desperate, their clamor, a shield against their own fear. But remember, the truly powerful, they cultivate silence. It's their most potent weapon. The well-dressed coward needs to be seen. They need their performance to fill the room, to drown out any doubt, especially their own. They mistake volume for weight and constant motion for progress. True power, however, needs no stage. It simply is. This is the core difference between frantic self-promotion and quiet authority. When your self-worth depends on external validation, every interaction becomes a desperate plea for approval. You broadcast your intentions, you over-explain your plans, you rush to defend every decision. This exposes your insecurity, making you a target. People see your need, and they exploit it. Think about figures like Nelson Mandela. He spent decades in silence, in confinement, stripped of all outward symbols of power. yet his influence grew, not diminished. What Nelson Mandela understood is that true strength is not a performance for others, but an internal state, a quiet resolve unbreakable by external conditions. His presence alone, when he finally emerged, commanded absolute deference without a single boast. Watch what happens when genuine authority enters a room. They don't demand attention, they simply occupy space. Their gaze is steady, their movements deliberate. They listen more than they speak, absorbing information, weighing every word. When they speak, it's not to impress, but to inform, to guide, to resolve. Here's how you cultivate this invisible shield. You stop explaining yourself. You stop justifying your actions. You stop announcing your plans before they are complete. The moment you offer an explanation, you open a door for debate, for challenge, for doubt. You invite others to pick apart your reasoning, to question your resolve. Instead, you move with purpose. Your actions are your statements. Your results are your arguments. You don't ask for permission. You don't seek validation. You simply execute. This disciplined silence strips your adversaries of any handhold, any weakness to exploit. There's no performance to critique, no grand declaration to undermine. The loud, performative individual throws their weight around, hoping it will stick. They need constant reassurance, a chorus of agreement to bolster their fragile self-image. They chase applause, they crave admiration, and they waste immense energy trying to control how others perceive them. This constant effort drains them. But the person with quiet authority doesn't operate on borrowed confidence. Their self-assurance is an internal engine, fueled by competence, experience, and a clear understanding of their own capabilities. They don't need external validation because their power is self-contained. It radiates rather than demands. Confucius once taught that the superior man is modest in his speech, but exceeds in his actions. What Confucius understood is that genuine strength is demonstrated, not declared. It's not about how loudly you speak, but how profoundly your actions shape the world around you. Your work speaks for itself, and often more powerfully than any words. Apply this principle to every aspect of your life. When you set a goal, work on it in silence. When you face a challenge, meet it with calm, deliberate action, not frantic declarations. When people try to draw you into their drama, step back. Let them exhaust themselves on their own stage, seeking an audience that won't appear. They will eventually realize that your quietness isn't weakness. It's an impenetrable fortress. There's nothing to attack, nothing to argue against, because you haven't given them the raw material. Your composure becomes a weapon, forcing them to confront their own anxieties without your participation. Your silence becomes their mirror. This deliberate withdrawal of your energy, this refusal to perform, creates a vacuum that only true strength can fill. But there's another subtle trap, one that masquerades as support, but is designed to subtly diminish your resolve. What is it? Chapter 10. The Shadow Play. The shadow play? This final trap, the friend who binds you. They don't wish your failure but fear your rise. Observe their pattern, a terror of inadequacy. This final insidious trap is the culmination of all the others, the friend who offers guidance, designed to keep you small, who asks probing questions meant to sow doubt, whose support is conditional on you never truly surpassing them. These are not allies, they are shadows, projecting their own fears onto your ambition, finding flaws. They do not want you to fail, but they desperately need you to stay within their perceived reach. What you observe is a consistent pattern, not isolated incidents. Their behavior stems from a core fear of inadequacy. They cannot stomach your ascent because it highlights their stagnation, so they try to subtly anchor you, always with a smile and feigned concern. Recognize this, a desperate attempt to control your narrative, to keep you from becoming who they wish they could be. Julius Caesar understood that those who fear change often speak of loyalty while planning betrayal. He observed the subtle shifts, the whispered doubts, and the public displays of allegiance that hid true intentions. Your enemies often wear the guise of advisors, preying on your trust to undermine strength. Their fear of your power makes them dangerous yet predictable. Engaging with their manufactured concerns or defending your vision is a waste of your most precious resource, your focus. Every explanation you offer, every detail you share, becomes ammunition for their subtle sabotage. They crave your attention, your emotional response, because it validates their perceived importance. deny them that validation. You identify these figures by their consistent need to inject doubt, to point out pitfalls where none exist, or to subtly diminish your achievements. They always have an excuse for their own inaction, but are quick to find reasons for yours. Their confidence is a stage performance, a constructed facade to hide deep insecurity and aversion to risk. Their entire persona is built on illusion, masking a profound lack of courage when it truly matters. They talk of big moves but take none. They critique your bold steps from the safety of their stagnation. This is their shadow play, a desperate attempt to feel significant by dimming your light, convincing themselves your caution is shared wisdom, not their prison. Steve Jobs once said, "Don't let the noise of others' opinions drown out your own inner voice." He understood that true progress demands ruthless focus on your vision, unswayed by doubts from those who lack conviction. He knew building something revolutionary meant filtering out static, ignoring the well-meaning, but limiting advice of the timid. Strategy is simple: starve them, offer no explanation. Do not engage in their debates. Do not justify your ambition. When they offer advice, listen without reaction, then proceed as intended. Your silent, unwavering action becomes their most potent mirror, reflecting their stagnation and fear, exposing the hollowness of their performative confidence. This is not open conflict. It is strategic irrelevance. You do not confront them. You simply outgrow them. You build your fortress so strong, your path so clear, that their whispers become distant echoes, incapable of penetrating your resolve. They lose power the moment you stop giving them an audience. The moment you understand their doubt is not about you, but about their own limitations. Watch what happens when you cut the emotional ties. They either retreat, finding a new target, or forced to confront their inaction. Their attempts to drag you down will fall flat, bouncing off the impenetrable shield of your self-possession. You have deprived them of their oxygen, of the validation they sought through your reaction. Your focus becomes your weapon, your silence, your armor. You see them, not as threats, but as signposts, markers on a path you no longer share. They are a constant reminder of the weakness you refuse to embody, the compromises you refuse to make.